biggest thing we try to prove in the first month is even with a marginal amount of effort, you were able to get half of your tickets solved. You try it. Don't give it to your team yet. Just ask yourself first when the ticket comes in and see if it does it. And the fact that they can see the rate of improvement means like, okay, if I keep investing a bit of my time every week and making this context better and better, I'm going to end up having a substantial amount of my busy work taken away from me, because also data teams are notoriously understaffed. People wonder like, are data teams going to lose their jobs? I'm like, well, most of them aren't filled anyway. So like probably what's going to happen is that the ones that aren't filled won't need to be filled. Great. Okay, sure.
Oh, what's going to happen to my job? Do you feel like are you constantly asking for people on your team? Like, you might still be asking, but maybe a little less. But
and are you not annoyed at how many dump tickets? And mind you, like also business people have so many more questions they want to ask, so they just can't because there's no time. The biggest difference of behavior I see with Querio is two. One, people don't actually care about dashboards. It's just like this preconceived agreement of an artifact. That's why they ask you for it for like a week to get rid of it, then they ask you for a difference. They don't even know how much effort it is to make it all polished. And then the second thing is that they just ask a lot more stuff because they can. And it's crazy the data literacy of the business team increasing, where they can actually start pointing out to you a bit better when they do have more intense tickets and needs.
People start to learn how data works when they work with data.
Weird.
Start by doing. Start asking questions, and then it's going to improve.
Business people get data teams to clean up their data, centralize it, and then give them their answers. And giving them a tool with the context is the same thing. Instead of a dashboard with filters, it is a much smarter like LLM, and you are still doing the exact same job.
Don't forget to subscribe to Data Neighbor wherever you listen to podcasts and YouTube. And drop a like and comment below. It keeps us bringing you great content like this. Hey everyone, before we get into the show, we want to announce something really exciting. We're kicking off 2 new completely free learning series, one on AI evaluation and one on agentic analytics. If you head over to dataneighbor.com, you can see the full live schedule as well as get any of the past recordings and free practical resources. We've got a ton of really interesting workshop topics planned, from analyzing product data in Claude Code, to designing your first AI evaluation plan, to creating custom annotations tools, to validating the business impact of AI features, to cracking the data science interview, leveraging AI tools. You'll find the full schedule and everything else at dataneighbor.com. And if you want to go even deeper, we're offering 2 cohort-based live hands-on courses. One's called AI Analytics for Builders, where you'll learn how to leverage AI to become your own product data scientist, become analytically independent, stop waiting on analysts and data scientists to answer your questions. And the other one is AI Evaluations for Product Development, where you can start to actually measure the tangible impact of your AI features on user outcomes to business outcomes. They're both super hands-on, practical, cohort-based courses. You're going to work with us as well as other AI practitioners in the field to learn week by week for 5 or 6 weeks. And at the end, you'll have a really strong understanding of either how to leverage AI to become an analyst or how to conduct the right analysis to evaluate AI features. So we hope you'll join us. Check it out at dataneighbor.com. Now back to the show. Welcome back to Data Neighbor in our series, The Analyst's New Toolbox. This is a new series we're kicking off around conversations with the leaders who are really rethinking how data gets analyzed and how decisions get made in this kind of new era of AI. So today, really excited by our guest, Rami Abi Habib. He's the co-founder and CEO of Querio, a platform that helping teams ask questions around their data in a natural language and also in a way that's governed and trustworthy. So Rami, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome, Rami.
So Rami, you spent, jumping right into it, you spent your career using data to make decisions, I'm sure, long before you started Querio. I imagine you're working in environments where data access and correctness and speed really matter. Before we get into Querio, would love to just understand, what did you see in your past roles that convinced you that the traditional BI model wasn't really working?
That is a good question to start off. I kind of fell into the data problem primarily from the job I had right before starting Querio. I worked at Amazon, of all places, for 5 years, and I think Amazon is known as quite like a data-driven, intense company with somehow, sorry, Amazon, one of the worst BI tools. Like, people do not generally love QuickSight. They don't love QuickSight. Amazon bought Tableau. They have QuickSight. Why are they buying Tableau? It makes no sense. But when you have an organization that large with databases from everywhere from 1999 to now, from their own Redshift databases to, you see that little bug? When you have all those different kind of history of different databases, a humongous growth in different teams, really, really intense data like governance, especially because it's a public company. There's
Mhm.
customer data, there's intense PII data, there's purchase history that can affect, to some degree, it can give you an indication of the GDP of the US at some point and
It's
the
got all the
performance of
shows
different
I'm
markets.
watching. All
It's
the
got
shows I'm watching on Amazon Prime, you know?
I don't know what that's probably sensitive information,
That's what
but it's really intense. And I actually never worked a traditional data role at Amazon. I was not on a data team per se. I was at the end I was a technical product lead for robotics and operations, and then for Alexa. And I was really good at SQL and Python. I did have a lot of favors with data teams, and I fought tooth and nail to get permissions for a lot of databases. And this combination of understanding, like I knew at any step of the Amazon logistics chain, when you scanned anything, exactly what database was updated for any item type in any country. I just knew how the data flowed super well. The same thing with Alexa. And so it was really easy for me to be able to, relatively easy for me compared to everyone else who worked with me, the other like PMs, of writing my own SQL, doing my own analysis in Python. I had the data access. I knew how the schemas worked. I knew how the flow of data went from the business to the data. And it really made me very, very good at my job. And it was just kind of like this constant second role I had, which maybe some people can relate to it, but a lot of people end up having this like secondary role of like the team's analyst, because the average ticket time for Amazon is 6 weeks. But if you know me, I'm on your team, it's an hour, right?
Was that so like, just to pause, like that's my favorite type of product manager to work with. That's like the ones where I get the most work done is when I'm working with technical PMs, and like I don't know, like I think it's for me it's probably like 20% of the time I get on a team that has like someone who has those skills, and I can just like go so much further as a data scientist. But what was that your reason for investing in those data skills? Was like the lead time for getting an analyst, or what got you kind of think like, oh, I need to invest in these skills along with like my standard product manager skills?
You know, it was slightly out of desperation. When you get to the scale of Amazon and you're having like new logistical operations spun up, you have like new robotics replacing operations, you have new processes. A lot of the time, the data team actually did not have a good understanding of how the business related to the data anymore. It grew faster than them. And it's always someone like me being really stubborn, like, okay, I'm going to actually go to a location or ask someone to scan something and see what changed and where I can find it. Like it got to that degree of like, where is this flow of data? Because the data engineers are so far away from the analytics and the analysts and the BI team and all that stuff. And yeah, when you're up at that scale, it's like, I really needed to know where things ended up, because I needed to crunch a lot of data to figure out, should we do this process next? Is this process working? Should we invest in this section next? Where's the bottleneck? It was really, really hard at times. And I caught a lot of like queries before my time that were just being used as kind of like templates that ended up having mistakes and were miscounting things because they just, yeah.
Interesting. And you mentioned service tickets. Is that kind of like the working model at the time when you were?
Yeah, there's
at
tickets,
Amazon?
internal ticketing system. It goes to this centralized BI team who is serving generally an org or like a sub org, but definitely not like your particular team's needs. Also super classic and you know, mid-market plus, you make friends with the data team. There's always this one guy you can send a ticket to, but then you just ping him on Slack, like with the ticket, like, hey buddy, can you get ahead of this? You know, it's crazy how much like nepotism exists in the data world still, for you to get any of your answers. Yeah.
And sorry, and I totally interrupted your flow with that. But so you're working on these teams, you're able to get answers a lot faster than the other PMs, but you're still seeing something that's not really working there with kind of the internal BI tool.
I guess in relation of how this ended up with Querio, yeah, I mean, BI generally works. It takes 6 weeks. People are really trying to do a good job. I was constantly being bugged to do work because I'll do it faster or a lot of time even more correct than like someone from a ticket. And GPT-3 came out at the time. I was at Alexa, had a very good architectural understanding of like natural language processing, how it moved into transformers and LMs. I got early access to it. I started off making like Bob Dylan songs before ChatGPT came out, like a generator. And then at one point I was so overwhelmed one week with like people just sending me like SQL requests. I'm like, I wonder, can this thing write? Like if I give it just these 4 tables that matter for these people, because you have like people trying to write or trying to do data work have like 2 problems or 3. What the heck is a database? And then which ones do I need and what tables and columns do I need? And then how do I actually technically write the SQL to put all that together? For the PMs, like, okay, they now know what SQL is and they know what database is. And like, I have these 4 tables they need and they just still don't know like really how the columns work and how to write SQL. What if I gave it to this weird LLM thing and I'm like, okay, I'm going to give you this and like give you a question, can you just like write this code for them really quick? And that's usually enough for them to get started to some degree. Like if they see select clause in the from, like they could just kind of move. And then people really liked it. People really liked it. It was always like my superpower at Amazon.
Wow.
And it wasn't just insights for other people. Like I would be able to pull a ton of data, see, let's say, like the distribution of volume, end up like making a small algorithm that can help redistribute how like we organize things so that the robots can move X amount faster, get a lot of validated savings. Like it was really nice to have like Python with that SQL to do a lot of really fun, like even like small machine learning projects. But yeah, and ended up people really liked it. I'm like, maybe I could do something with this. I really hate all these BI tools and I really love software. I really like BI as code, and I am very frustrated that data is still like, it's kind of like the last transactional relationship at a company. It's like asking someone to use a typewriter for you. It's like the person doing the most of the grunt work is not the person who needs the insights, and it's annoying.
Dude, oh my God, so true.
It's
So
annoying. It
true.
makes no
Like the
sense. The only time
transactional thing. Yeah. And it
human
goes like both
APIs.
ways. Yeah.
Human
The
APIs.
analysts,
Oh
business
my
analysts are human
God.
APIs. They're human APIs.
Dude, I literally wrote that in a deck the other day. I was literally wrote this in the other day around like why people like misuse data teams as a service when they're just like, yeah, treating them as an API, get data. And it's like, no, like
No.
it doesn't make any sense. Like either empower the person, like you said, who's closest to the data or closest to the business and the understanding to get the data themselves, or have the data person like so heavily embedded in some area that they actually have that context. Like they don't have to do this like weird back and forth transactional thing. I hate the transactional spot. You're speaking our language. So what, for someone who hasn't seen Querio, how would you kind of describe that in simple terms?
The simplest terms is we help businesses make sense out of all the data they collect. I mean, if you really were to abstract away any data tool, that's what they're for. People are collecting a ton of data and they have a really hard time making sense of it. Whether it's to figure out where to invest more money, whether it's to figure out where to cut money, whether it's to figure out everything from what supplier is causing your returns, to what users you should like advertise to more, or whatever it is. Querio helps people make sense out of data. Now, the more data question is Querio is BI as code from the ground up, built for the world of like agentic analytics. What can we do now that there is a new abstraction over code? So you had like, machine code, assembly, C++, like Python, you keep like kind of getting abstracted away, and agents are finally like the ultimate abstraction, right? You can prompt and it can write the code in pure English. How do you take that really, really powerful thing, pair it with a BI tool you could never build before for the end user, because they could never actually solve that problem of what's a database, what's a schema, and how do I write the code, and wrap it up in a way that lets people do their own work.
Who's your Rami? Who's your kind of target audience with Querio?
Data teams.
Okay, so like
data teams,
data professionals.
Data professionals buying it for their business. I think ultimately the job function of like data analysts and data teams is to serve their internal users, and I think Querio is a fantastic way to serve them.
You could speak a bit to like the kind of importance of the governance part and like the trust part.
Yeah, so Querio has four main components. It has a notebook, really good agents, context/governance, and a front end, basically. Going into context, BI as code is great because it's very transparent. There is no black box. SQL comes in, table comes out, and any visual is just a Python code visualizing it with a very specific library, and it's very beautiful. For governance, it's really important for agents to be able to, for two reasons. Like one, to keep good cataloging of your data, you need a very good tool that's embedded in your data product, whether it's our native one or an integration with a third party. And the agent, just like an analyst, will need it to answer questions. So I think a good way I try to explain this to customers is like, imagine that every time you ask a question, it's the best data analyst on earth's first day. And you have to give them one handbook, and they'll read it every single time they answer a question to know how to answer any question. So you have to have every single join mapped out, a really good data catalog, your major metrics, like certain quirks. The more and more you build this like handbook of knowledge, it'll always be able to read all of it and follow it perfectly, but it has to be digital somewhere for it to be right. And this is great because you get twofold. You unlock more and more of your free time because your first line defense is working better. But then you also get really good catalog of your data. And Querio is not anything fancy. It is, in a sense, where like this problem is also largely solved. Now we do have agents that automatically fill them out, the catalog, do information schema queries, like, really good flows for adding metrics. Sure. And we're adding integrations to things like Cube and DBT. I don't find any of them particularly stronger, and we can have that whole debate. But the main point is, in whatever ontology, in whatever structure you're deciding, how do you put everything you need to answer questions blindly with just a SQL prompt? And so for us, we use we can have it in JSON or in YAML. We have common ontology understandings like metrics and objects. We have obviously all the tables and columns. We have all the joins defined and filters, kind of a bit similar to cubes in that sense. Take a bit of inspiration from DBT. And then obviously, because of like the scale ups and the enterprises ideally have data modeling products like Cube and DBT, it's really good for us to design ours in a way. And we have that very soon in Q1 will be backwards compatible with them. And so if you want to use Querio natively and edit it, or you want to edit it in DBT or Cube and have it propagate to Querio, you can do either one. And we care more about how do we help you fill that out faster.
Yeah.
How when you have a conversation, you'd be like, oh, you use the wrong table. How do we add a button that says and like include in data model? Like that's the part I think has the most innovation, is just getting that flywheel of like the most amount of times you discover things you want to add to your data model is as you are working with data. Yeah.
Yeah, that trust part's so key. Even not using AI for me, when someone's asking me to query something, very easy for me to use the wrong table, especially you said this is the best data analyst, but it's their first day. I'm going to be making a lot of mistakes for probably those first 2 to 6 months anytime I join a new part of the product. So I love the emphasis on how could we get the flywheel of sort of correctness. What maybe describe like how would you describe like the typical workflow of someone who I'm trying to make a decision, I'm trying to get data to support that decision. What's my workflow look like with Querio?
I don't know if I would even say it as you have a decision and you want data to back it up. I think you're wondering what decision to make, or if you should make one and you want to explore the data to end up deciding what to do, I think is a better framing. But it is really as simple as you go into Querio, prompt it with even your thought of like, I'm looking at this, how about we explore it? Or you can be very specific of like, make me a chart of X over Y, or whatever it is. You can be as open-ended as closed-ended. They ask the question, they wait 10, 20 seconds. They're going to get a really nice report, which is basically a series of notebook cells, but only the ones that are important for them are showing on their screen. And that's for the non-technical person. Like Querio has use cases for everyone from your external users to your business team to the data team. We have kind of different front ends for it. That fourth component will change.
Okay. I mean, this might be a good time, if you're up for it, to jump into a little demo to see what it looks like.
Yeah, sure. I can demo you the wonderful Querio. I imagine, as most data people, that you guys have seen The Office.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, perfect. So we have a Dunder Mifflin demo database here. And this is just like one of the internal homepages of Querio. This is like for the non-technical, semi-technical persona. We can ask a question. Let's be, I don't know, super broad. Let's like compare 2024 versus 2025 sales. I love this question because you are not asking for a specific metric and a specific chart, as many people like try to show off. You are not trying to get some SQL written. You're like, I just want to look at how the sales have compared. What about the sales? The orders? The product breakdown? Who knows? Let's see what Querio decides. So, we're going to ask a question. We are going to get re-put over here. And now the right side, a bit similar to Cloud Artifacts, you have like the chat happening and what's going on. And then you have what it decides is important for your answer here on this like blank screen. You can see that it's already started doing some code. So it did some scratchpad, check some stuff. Oh, I have data through September. So let me make sure that I'm only looking from January 1st to September 15th to make sure it's an even look. The data is incomplete. Amazing. Wrote some SQL and Markdown. Everything is code. Like really, there is nothing proprietary or locked out. Wrote some SQL, gave us both of our year breakdowns for orders. That's really nice. I can even zoom a bit. Average order value, total quantity, super great. It's moving faster than I can even speak. Pulled up some monthly trends, super nice. Look, regional breakdown. I'm going to stop talking and just let it do some work for a second. But yeah,
it's pretty cool how it is pulling in multiple measures of performance.
And I mean, business users are notoriously terrible at even asking you questions, let alone asking an AI, and they get lazy. They start speaking in keywords. Sales 2024 chart, please.
And it sucks with the transactional thing like you're talking about before too, because, you know, I'm sure they have the idea of what they want in their head. And then there's like that just talking past each other thing, come back, you know, a day later or, you know, weeks later with this metric. And they're like, that's not what I asked for at all. I was talking about this. But here it's instant. And you're like, okay, this isn't what I asked for. I can get something else.
Yeah, it's super great. We have shipping data missing. So it's like, oh, looks like there's shipping data missing. Let me close this off. So here's like a revenue trend, 11%. Business stakeholders love this. Now it's doing some nice visuals.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Query has a coding issue, has a syntax error. It's fixing it. There it is. giving us a regional breakdown, nice visual, line breakdown, nice visual. You look pretty like shocked. Are you?
No, I'm just trying to make sense of kind of like the flow the AI is doing here that you're showing. It seems like it's sort of like, hey, let me show you all the steps that I'm doing in between. And so if you catch something early, like you see what's happening. So it's not like, hey, here's the dump of the answer. And so at the end, it's like, oh, well, you know, like you have no clue if it's like where it's going rogue, for example.
Yeah, exactly. So we have like, it doesn't show all the Scratchpad SQL ever. It can delete things. It generally only shows like related SQL data tables, and then their accompanying visuals, and then Markdown are the things that it asks for. And then it's the prompt kind of tries to focus on like, I asked a very general report level question. Give me a very general report level answer. It can give you a singular table, or it can give you, okay, you want to compare the 2 years? Let me just find anything sales related because you didn't really tell me what you wanted to look at.
Yeah.
And you get this nice little key insights at the end.
Oh, that's cool. So it summarizes for you as well.
Yeah, business teams love this. And everything is just code. I mean, you know, we can just like go in here. We can like make this just bar, and then we can run it, and it can just change to a bar.
That is cool.
And now, if you're not technical, you don't get the ability to see this code and edit it. But like, you can pull it, right, and then you can even tag it. You know, I can be like, oh, make this green. Like, if we're going to be using BI's code in a notebook, let's really design a fantastic product around that. Yeah, you give it a second. Now it's going to make this green, and obviously we just re-released this product. This wasn't recording when I said that, but you know, we very recently updated our product and refreshed it all, so we don't have those new buttons that we used to have. But it's going to be as simple as just that UI button changing what this is. It's so easy. And I'm going to save a couple things and show you guys some more things. But yeah, all of its codes. And then what we're going to be having coming out later next year is 2 things. One, you see this embedded button. So we're actually going to have, and we have 3 pilots already with design partners, but a lot of people want to give this experience to their customers. I want to have them be able to ask questions, pin things, and save them. Well, if you have it internally, or if you don't, and you've gained trust and you know what can provide them value, let's give you that. You'll have row-level security, so the data is pre-filtered for every customer. And suddenly you don't have a humongous backlog of reporting needs from them. And maybe you can even charge them. Who knows?
Yeah.
And resale, agentic analytics.
Yeah. And then separately, like, this isn't out yet, but this is what the agent is ultimately filling out. It is just a notebook, nothing else. So we're going to make this into its own product for, like, we kind of went the reverse way of Hex almost. We really focus on everyone being able to interact with data directly. And then the technical person reviewing it and doing their own work is kind of like the future. But the idea is, how do we verticalize this data function so that your end users, your business customers, you internally, the way that you manage context, like, can we be an opinionated software that some of the best data teams on earth love us because we just make everything so easy? And you have that same context powering your embedded product, powering your internal reporting, powering your ML work. It becomes such a nice flywheel. And non-technical people love using Querio. It just feels so intuitive to them. That's just the fact that you can have such a good conversation. We built our notebook from scratch. Like, something really annoying about Jupyter notebooks is that if you have a visual in cell 10 and you called the SQL in cell 2, if you change the SQL cell, it doesn't actually update the visual. So Querio's notebooks are all reactive programmatically. So as soon as you update any dependent cells, they all propagate. Super classic with like data science notebooks like DeepNote and Marimo. But like, we brought that to analytics, which is super nice.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, working with Jupyter notebooks in like Claude Code or Cursor, that's like one of my biggest gripes. It's like try and change one thing and it's like it won't change all the cells. And a lot of times like it will just not even change that initial shell because it's like not using the right tools. I've had a few cases where I'm like, oh no, remove that, and then just like deletes the entire all cells in the notebook. And like, oh God, please no. Can I undo it? Oh no, I can't. Like,
it's so hard. Yeah. I ended up showing you guys like, you can save things, put them as dashboards and have them refresh, but really that's kind of the core product. And the first one we released was, how do we get the data team's customers to have like a first line of defense?
Yeah, I definitely can see how that translates directly to your experience where folks were asking you to help them pull something and you know, empowered them internally with your tool and then realized, oh yeah, this is a very common problem. I can empower more people more broadly with Querio. In this system where from the very beginning, you're able to effectively do this really broad and also like high depth initial EDA of the data, which I think that kind of thing could take a data person weeks when you're thinking about, okay, I have to go into a meeting with different stakeholders. I have to get a list of all their questions. Before you have your target analysis, you kind of have to do that broader analysis to get some sort of
Exploratory.
artifact around to people to like get them actually talking about what they're seeing in the data and asking like the right kind of questions. Where am I going with this?
I'm not
Oh
sure.
yeah. Where do you find like the human judgment still matters most in a system like this where you are able to kind of automate a bunch of the data work?
You can automate none of the data work. You're automating the easiest part of data work. I think, there's so much thought to put in. Like you can start from the very top, deciding what systems to like put together and what data to put together and how they all relate is something you need to really think about of how you want it to function for your end like artifacts. When you are thinking about, I guess there's so many things. Like I feel like when you have top level metrics to boards or execs, like you're always gonna have to have someone do those manually and make sure they're good. That is something you just cannot pass off like that. Like there is super high trust needed over there. When you have, like I feel like these things are just going to be really good at just writing like SQL and Python and maybe replacing a lot of like the ad hoc database or sorry, dashboard work needed. It's a bit late in London. My brain is like blanking. There's a very good point I'm trying to say that requires still so much thought. Like, but like, I don't know, defining the right metrics that you want, actually
Right.
keeping up the context and the metadata up to date because all it knows is what you're telling it, right? So you have to be able to understand your core metrics and how they work together, understand the full picture that you want it to understand to look at. It's not going to be able to, I asked it to look at 2024, 2025 sales, like, yeah, like it's fine. But there's just some stuff it just won't ever know. Like we have a mobile telecom provider as a customer. They provide internet to their SIM card holders, whatever it is. And whenever someone buys a plan, there's a column that's like gigabytes and how much gigabytes they have with the internet plan. But if it's unlimited, it's -1. No AI model on earth is going to know that. There is so much work around the context. There's so much work on defining what metrics are important to your business. There's so much work on gaining trust with the executive team. There's so much work on centralizing and cleaning and figuring out how you want to aggregate this data in an efficient way. Like the hard part of the job is still the hard part of the job now. But once everything is super clean and the hard part you have is because your data is dirty, you have to do all these weird where clauses and these weird pre-where clauses for your indexes. That's not the brainy part of being a data analyst. Like if you can use ChatGPT to Copilot, then they should be able to just ask it itself directly. And you should focus on how do I make my like data layer much more clean and organized so that I don't have to have all these weird exceptions all the time and this weird tribal knowledge that just makes everything a muck.
Yeah.
I think the lowest impact work is the one that's getting automated. I'm not just saying that because I'm on the data teams. Like I feel like people really underestimate how much subjective opinion and like excellence is required for the system to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rami, on that note, like I think the notorious, or I guess the hardest thing for almost all data team is documentations, labeling their data, making sure that like almost everything lives in people's heads. How do you get your customers or your users to be like, hey, here's an onboarding plan or implementation plan before you get value out of Querio? You need to do X, Y, and Z. How do you kind of make it easy for them?
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of things you can end up scoping out like during a pilot. We usually offer a lot of customers pilots for the first month. Usually there's like ideally 10 eval questions across a humongously broad range of your tables that require very specific knowledge that it needs to zero shot understand. There's a very clear plan of like, we're going to use our agents to do a first pass at a data catalog if you don't have one. We're going to explain to you how you can have this loop of updating knowledge. It has transparent information of where it got its understanding from and what code it wrote. We will work with you week over week to show you how to update it and how you can quickly iterate from the work that you're doing. You can give it example queries you've had before as extra knowledge. And between all those things, I think the biggest thing we try to prove in the first month, because they should not expect magic, is even with a marginal amount of effort, you were able to get half of your tickets solved. You try. Don't give it to your team yet. Just ask yourself first when a ticket comes in and see if it does it. And the fact that they can see the rate of improvement means like, okay, if I keep investing a bit of my time every week and making this context better and better, I'm going to end up having a substantial amount of my busy work taken away from me, because also data teams are notoriously understaffed. People wonder like, are data teams going to lose their jobs? I'm like, well, most of them aren't filled anyway. So like probably what's going to happen is that the ones that aren't filled won't need to be filled. Great. Okay, sure.
That's pretty cool. I mean, like, well, I mean, that's I guess there's our trailer there.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to start saying that honestly, because it's so true. If you're like, oh, what's going to happen to my job? And it's like,
dude,
do you feel like are you constantly asking for people on your team? Like, you might still be asking, but maybe a little less. But
and are you not annoyed at how many dump tickets? And mind you, like also business people have so many more questions they want to ask, so they just can't because there's no time. Like you're not going to.
Yeah.
So the biggest difference of behavior I see with Querio is two. One, people don't actually care about dashboards. It's just like this preconceived agreement of an artifact. That's why they ask you for it for like a week to get rid of it, then they ask you for a difference. They don't even know how much effort it is to like make sure all the dates are relative, make it all polished. They don't give a fuck. Sorry, they don't care.
You can curse on here. It's all
yeah,
good.
they don't give a fuck to. They don't care. They don't care at all. And then the second thing is that they just ask a lot more stuff because they can. And it's crazy the data literacy of the business team increasing, where they can actually start pointing out to you a bit better when they do have more intense tickets and needs. It's kind of like weird how they'll actually, we'll assume people are like, can be quite dumb, you know, but like actually they'll really start to understand some things like, oh, it's in this table, not that one. And, you know, there's always like multiple of this one, but one, like they'll start to understand many to one relationships. It's weird. These things that people end up, yeah.
I was going to ask you, that was going to be my next question is like, what are you seeing as people transition to the self-serve? I did expect like, oh, people are able to ask a lot more than they did before, but I didn't think about that in terms of like people start to learn how data works when they work with data.
Weird.
I mean, there's a lot of, as you were saying it, I feel like there's a lot of analogy between, or it's very analogous to the previous question, which was how do you get kind of like your data ready, if you will, for kind of like your tool? And the answer seems to be you start by doing. Like you start asking questions, and then it's going to improve, and then you're going to be, you know, like filling out the deficiencies, the evals on what it's not working, what it's working, that kind of stuff. It's almost like bringing AI along to get to a place where it's accurate and trustworthy. Same thing with like business stakeholders. Yeah, same thing with business stakeholders. It's like, oh, the more questions you ask and you start seeing patterns there, the more that you understand the underlying how it's actually doing stuff, so that you yourself could also understand the thing. That's pretty cool.
It is. Sorry, I get so excited, but like, yeah, the businesses are never going to connect data by themselves. I see a bunch of these, like, we did this in our first month. It was such a dumb idea, but like self-login with Fivetran to like HubSpot and Meta Ads and Google Sheets, and we will centralize it all and ETL it automatically. So people don't want to do that. Business people get data teams to clean out their data, centralize it, and then give them their answers. And giving them a tool with the context is the same thing. Instead of a dashboard with filters, it is a much smarter like LLM, and you are still doing the exact same job. Don't think because of a voluminous, low brain thought, high quantity work, that's not your job. That your job is to give them the answers, and you are. Sorry, that was a bit of a difference from what you were saying, but like, just business people can only do so much, and yeah, they'll learn data stuff, but they won't ever learn everything.
Yeah, I mean, also like people just need to get their answers to their questions and like make their decisions fast. It's just like, it's also like, yeah, sure. There's also an ideal. It's not even business people. It's like data people too. There's some ideal world where it's like, oh, I'm going to have a month to go deep on this analysis. And at the end of the day, it's like, crap, this thing I signed up for is tomorrow. And I need to get some information in this freaking deck to help this person make a decision. What's the fastest way I can do that? That is mostly trustworthy.
Yeah. I have a dream about killing dashboards, kind of. Not like killing dashboards. Like, can you imagine a world where a prompt is a dashboard? It's kind of like, I want last month's whatever it is and last month's whatever it is and all these things. And it has like a connection to all the metric layer stuff. And instead of it being a query like with a relative date, like it just free writes it. It could write the fixed dates, like, you know, November to November, instead of having it. And it doesn't save you much time, but like for a non-technical person, they don't know what a relative date is really. And you can give it a prompt, like make sure all the dates are relative. It'd be kind of cool if you can get really consistent outputs from like a very specific prompt, that you can like condense a dashboard to a, you know, dashboard to prompt almost, and like that will write code and then run it.
Yeah.
Kind of sounds cool. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I don't like, I mean, I don't hate dashboards. I never want to make one again in my entire life, but like, I started my career making them, and I'm pretty good. I was pretty good at it. And then I realized to be actually the most effective version of like a data person was nothing to do with like making pretty dashboards that people liked, but was just like getting them what they needed. I mean, our dashboards when Hai and I were at Nextdoor, that were the best dashboards that everyone loved and made decisions, was a fucking Google sheet that like a PM set up.
Funny.
And it was like, he just wanted it connected. And I was like, honestly, the saying kicks ass. Like, that's just all we need. Like, and meanwhile, we're like in Tableau and Looker, which I really like those platforms too, but it's like, you don't need to default to so much of it is default. It's before they're even asking questions like, oh, can you get a dashboard with all this stuff? And it's like, I don't know. Like, I've done this before, and I can just guarantee you're not going to look at it. And or like, why don't I just even write you the query and you can just run this query? You just need that number. And like, oh yeah,
And
that is easier.
it's so funny. You know, like that little chart of like the more senior someone is at a company, the smaller their screen is. And it's like
Oh,
the CEO ends up on like their phone and like the junior is like on this like double monitor, just like going crazy. And I feel like, yeah, it's like you have these like data people that's like, oh, I have to like make the toggle look perfect. And I'm not only going to give them a job that I'm actually going to make it a physical toggle they can move back and forth and make it a dashboard. It's like you give query to like one of these like execs and they like write a half-baked question. The table's like kind of like fucked up. Like, oh, that's the number. And then they just close it and they move on with their day. And it's just so funny.
Oh my god. My first data job, I worked on the biggest screen possible, which was an analytics wall at PwC, which was 8 feet tall and 16 feet wide.
8 feet tall. Oh, like one of those like
huge
command centers.
touch
Yeah.
Like air
screen
traffic
thing.
control.
Oh my
we'd bring it
God.
to conferences, or we'd have clients come in because it's consulting. We'd tell our stories across it. But it was purely just for like sales, marketing gimmicks. Like you're not actually using that thing to get shit done. It was like some engagement was done with a client and now we're visualizing it here. But yeah, I totally agree. Man, such a pain in the ass, like trying to make dashboards work on that thing.
Yeah, my
But it
goal is
was
to get
kind
to
of
the
cool
point.
looking.
Sean, I think there's like a common point where all the guests recently that we've talked to is like on a mission to quote unquote kill dashboards.
Uh-huh.
The other interesting thing that I've heard is like, hey, when you have more dashboards than, for example, like employees at your company, something is wrong with it. And it also definitely speaks to
Yeah.
the fact that, hey, people default to dashboards as being this common data language artifact thing that you talked about, Rami, where it's almost like it's like a rite of passage kind of thing where it's like I have to ask for a dashboard or else like I'm not getting the data team to be useful or whatever, like which is certainly one misconception that's worth fixing. I mean, either with tooling or whatever. It seems like you Rami, what you're building at Querio is trying to kind of like get people straight on that side of the house.
Yeah, it's not particularly trying to kill dashboards, like more so like just people are getting so many different versions of data artifacts, like they just don't feel the need to ask anymore.
Mm-hmm.
They're more like asking a data person like, hey, I did this thing, I needed like a super report, can you just like double check it? That's a much nicer way. It's way nicer when they send you something to review. Like, can you imagine? It's just, here's something for you to read. Can you just like double check? It'll take you way less time than writing from scratch, and everything is code and it's super nice. And yeah, it's just nice having so much flexibility. My goal I was gonna say is run the company about the screen thing. It's like just to run it off my phone. That'd be very nice. But I have to be like 60 probably, and
Why don't you just get a Neuralink and then you don't have to even do the phone thing? You're just like all in.
Querio
3.0.
Why even have a screen? Why not stream it to the consciousness? It's in my consciousness anyway.
I was just rewatching whatever the last James Bond was, and there's like one of the villains has like this like robotic eyeball where it's like a computer in his head and he's able to see it's all like, oh yeah, we just get those things. Perfect.
That's funny. Yeah.
So what do you think are there like new skills or mindsets you think data teams will have to adopt if we move to that kind of world of, so I guess two things we talked about before. One is like focus on the data layer being rock solid, and then moving to maybe something where it's like someone's sending you something and you're just reviewing. I don't know if there's other like mindset shifts you would see that would be beneficial to like excel in that kind of future of working with data.
No, I think that data layer and like the the contract / like semantic layer, I know it's like really popular like in a lot of spaces, but at the end of the day, it used to be that you should find time to document things to make some ETLs cleaner and to make things more consistent, and also to help new hires. But now for the first time, the more you invest in that, the less busy work you directly get. For every time you improve your semantic and data model, the more people are going to be able to self-serve. And that is a really nice flywheel. For the first time, it really incentivizes data teams to do that. Whereas before, sometimes it feels for a lot of junior people, I think, as busy work. And I think second as a shift is like you have much more opportunity if you're free to like actually start learning a bit more of how like how you can have your own semantic understanding of how the business and data relates, not just the data engineer, but what does the function of the company actually do? How does it fit into the prod DB? How does it end up in your database? I feel like that amount of knowledge will just make you 10 times more impactful. And a lot of data analysts don't have that. Smaller companies you do, but as you scale up, they really don't. And that'll just make you so much more powerful and faster at everything you want to do. And people never have the time to. So I think, yeah, the really well incentivized flywheel for semantics now and like a context layer is amazing, a data model. And then also the freedom of time to like really understand the journey of the data that you're working with and understand really well what this person's like, understand the business function so well that you understand why revenue is defined that way, you understand how the app is working and where that probably is going to be, because you just have a really good like mental map of everything. I think just makes you so useful.
That aligns with how you mentioned the other day, I think yesterday or the day before, of the two paths you saw was like investing in these like infrastructure, data engineering, basically unlock these tools to be their full potential. And then other side, go much deeper into the business understanding. So you're doubling down and am I asking the right questions?
Yeah, no, I mean, the dynamic duel is you have your AI kind of serve your, like quote unquote kind of ad hoc stuff to at least get people to be very informed on the stuff that they're asking for. To your point, like I do actually really believe that as people get more exposed to the data that they need, and also the data that they don't know that they need, they start to ask better questions, and then like that's itself is a reinforcing loop, and then kind of like the job of the data team now becomes like, hey, you're like the Navy SEALs here, like go solve really hard problems, and then leave the rest to more of the machines to kind of take care of those.
Rami, you mentioned envisioning a world where dashboards are gone, you're able to run the whole company off your phone. Where do you think what's holding us back from that right now? What has to be solved for that to happen? Slightly bigger phones. The iPhone's already pretty big, so it's like, I don't know.
I don't know if running it from your phone is actually the end goal, but I think this it's hard, man. Like, or I feel like data and for some reason robotics like share a lot of realities. You have so many legacy systems with so many different schemas and so much data cleaning needed, so much tribal knowledge to be written down, so much more like integrations needed, so much better modalities. There is just an infinite amount of work. I think it just needs tenacity, and it's like a 10-year overnight success where like one day a lot of fresh systems are going to be really well designed from scratch. They're going to be able to feed into a very clean model. Texas SQL only got solved like 3 months ago, right? Instead of like zero shot, being able to write consistently good SQL given a decent schema that's like managed database, all that stuff, that's only very recent. And I think it's an incremental improvement of everywhere from how we architect the data kind of like ecosystem to kind of zoning in on one way to like organize all of those objects and ideas well, and then making the systems that use them very smart, but they're only as like, garbage in, garbage out. I'm sorry, I don't have like a singular thing. I think we're on the right direction, and every like 5 years, you went from like Tableau to like Looker. You can have all these like different things, and you had like ThoughtSpot and Hex, and now you have like this whole new age, like really BI as code, full abstraction, lovable for data almost. And I think we're on a great direction. Like I love how much I hear the word semantic layer now. My first data job was at data.world actually. So I've been hearing about catalogs and data models for a long time. I'm just rambling at this point, but slow and steady, like a turtle.
Just like how I run. The tortoise and the hare.
Yeah.
Sean runs 100 milers, by the way.
No, you don't.
I speed hike and shuffle sometimes, but
26 hours straight. Crazy.
Have you ran a marathon before?
A marathon? Every weekend, man. I run them all the time.
I can't tell if he's joking.
No, I really do.
No,
I do these ultra marathon things. So I run like
wow,
a
that puts you on like
weekend.
the top 0.01% of humanity for endurance. Congratulations.
I don't know. It's gonna I guess like if we get ourselves into like a Mad Max situation and then like we use up all the gasoline, I'll be ready for that. But other than that, it's kind of just like I listen to a lot of podcasts. A lot of time.
You can run the generators.
I can exactly. Or like the fans for all the servers, get in the hamster wheel.
It's just
that cranks the fans.
That's the ultimate value of a data person at the end, is keeping the AI cool.
Querio 10.0 is so good. I need to find some sort of things like I got the fans, man. I keep Querio
Like an
on
Egyptian
at night.
queen. It's funny.
Man.
That's very funny.
Cool. Well, hey, man, we've taken up already enough of your time. We're getting towards the top of the hour here. Anything you kind of want to leave our listeners with that we haven't discussed? I know you mentioned that you're kicking off your own podcast. If you want to talk a little bit about that, that'd be great. Anything upcoming with Querio you want to share?
Yeah, I got a couple of things. So yeah, we're releasing the first episode of our podcast today called A to B. It's a bit more startup oriented. So we're talking to the fastest growing Series A startups and seeing what data backs them getting to Series A, and then what data they think is going to get them to Series B.
Cool.
So it's very fun comparing them to the mean and the median. It's very fun seeing how they got ahead and how they're going to stay ahead. And they're very fun stories from very interesting founders. And please check that out today. In about an hour and a half will be the first episode. You can find it on my page or Querio's page. Second is, we have our external facing product, our embedded Querio for customers coming out next year. So if you are looking to enable your business stakeholders or end users to drive actionable insights with agents, please reach out. You get a free, 2-month pilot with you guys. Just let us know you heard it from here. And you can get started within the hour. And we've gotten at least 7 people promoted or gotten a raise because people love this product so much.
Dang.
Outcome based.
That's the most important outcome.
Yeah. That is the best pitch ever. Okay, if you want to raise, you want to get promoted, we got hard numbers here, folks. Go check out Querio. Bring it to your company. You'll get your free 2-month POC and you'll get a raise.
Yeah, I think data teams forget how jaded we are. Like, you know about all my competitors. You might even be thinking about some of them. Your CEO doesn't know any of those guys. They don't know jack shit. Just get the one like mine that's super fucking affordable, quick to set up. Let them try it out. They're going to be so happy. Don't overthink it. Don't use the fucking filter thing. Just give them the answer.
I love it. Okay. Man,
sorry.
I don't know if that's going to be the intro to the episode. It's a great closer.
It's a good slogan for Querio. Just give them the answer. There you go.
It's definitely a short. It's definitely too short.
Just give them the answer.
Rami, thank you so much. I'll definitely be checking out your podcast as well, A to B.
Thank you.
We'll drop it in the show notes. To our listeners, thanks for listening to the episode. If you got any questions, drop them in the comments. Give us a like and a subscribe. And we'll see you next one. Thanks so much, Rami, for being here.
Thanks, Rami.
Thank you.